Have you ever wondered how elections work? Well, let's embark on a journey to understand this fundamental process. An election, in its simplest form, is a formal decision-making process where individuals cast votes to choose a person or a group of people for a particular position or office. It's like a large-scale job interview, where the entire nation is the hiring committee. Elections are the bedrock of any democratic society. They are the mechanism through which citizens exercise their sovereign power, making their voices heard. By casting a vote, you're not just selecting a representative, you're shaping the future of your community, your country, and even your world. Without elections, democracy would be like a ship without a compass, lost at sea. Elections provide direction, ensuring the will of the people is respected and reflected in governance. They remind those in power that they are accountable to the people they serve. So let's delve deeper into the fascinating world of elections. For an election to take place, we first need candidates. But how does someone become a candidate? Well, the journey to candidacy is an intriguing one. It begins with the nomination process, a crucial step in the electoral cycle. For a person to be considered a candidate, they must meet specific eligibility requirements. These requirements vary from place to place. However, a few common ones include being a certain age, holding citizenship, and often residing in the area you wish to represent. Yet meeting these requirements is just the tip of the iceberg. A hopeful candidate must then be nominated. The role of political parties in this process is significant. Parties often have their own internal processes for selecting candidates, which may include primaries or caucuses. Here, members of the party vote for their preferred candidate, who then becomes the party's nominee. But what if you aren't affiliated with a political party, or your party doesn't choose you as their nominee? Fear not, for there's also the process of self-nomination. This is where individuals independently declare their candidacy. They too must meet eligibility requirements and collect a certain number of signatures from supporters in their constituency to be officially recognized as a candidate. Now, an essential aspect of the nomination process is the candidate pool's diversity. A diverse set of candidates is vital to ensure that the various voices, perspectives, and needs of the community are represented. It's not just about age, gender, or ethnicity, but also about different backgrounds, experiences, and ideas. This diversity can enrich the political discourse, bringing fresh and innovative solutions to the table. So once these steps are completed, we have our candidates. But remember, becoming a candidate is just the starting point. The real challenge lies ahead, and that's the campaign. Once the candidates are set, it's time for the campaign to begin. Now that we have our candidates, it's time for them to convince us to vote for them. Welcome to the world of election campaigns. Election campaigns are a crucial part of the democratic process. It's during these campaigns that candidates communicate their visions, policies, and plans to the public. Their aim, to convince you that they're the best choice for the job. The strategies they use can be as varied as the candidates themselves, from public rallies and televised debates to social media blitzes and door-to-door canvassing. Now let's talk about the role of the media. The media provides a platform for candidates to make their case to the public. They also scrutinize the candidates, their policies, and their campaign promises, holding them accountable for what they say and do. But remember, the media itself is not immune to biases, and it's important to consume news from diverse sources to get a balanced view. An informed vote is a powerful vote. It's not just about choosing a candidate who sounds good, but choosing one whose policies align with your values and beliefs, and who has a realistic plan to implement them. It's about looking past the catchy slogans and glossy advertisements, and really understanding what each candidate stands for. However, election campaigns are not without their challenges. Misinformation can spread like wildfire, especially on social media. Negative campaigning, where candidates focus more on discrediting their opponents rather than promoting their own policies, can also muddy the waters. It's important to fact-check information and not let smear campaigns influence your decision. Election campaigns are a marathon, not a sprint. They can last for weeks or even months, with candidates tirelessly putting forth their case to the public. They're a test of endurance, not just for the candidates, but for the voters as well. After weeks or even months of campaigning, it's finally time for the main event, the voting. Election day has arrived, but what exactly happens on this day? Well, this is the day when citizens, like you and me, get to exercise our democratic right. The journey begins when we head to our designated polling stations. These are usually public places like schools, community halls, or even churches. First things first, we need to confirm our eligibility to vote. This involves presenting an approved form of identification to the polling station officials. Once our name is found on the voters' register, we're good to go. But if it's not there, don't worry. There are usually measures in place to address such issues, so everyone gets a fair chance to vote. Now, we move on to the actual voting process. Here, we're provided with a ballot paper, which lists all the candidates running for office. Some people might have a clear idea of who they want to vote for, while others might take a few moments to decide. That's perfectly okay. After all, voting is a personal decision that should be made without any rush or pressure. Next comes the moment of truth, casting the vote. Depending on the voting system, we either tick, cross, or fill in the space next to our chosen candidate's name. It's as simple as that. But what about privacy? Well, to ensure that every vote is cast freely and without influence, voting is done in secret. This is often done in a voting booth, away from prying eyes. Once the vote is cast, the ballot paper is folded and placed in a sealed ballot box. The idea behind this is to guarantee that every citizen feels safe and comfortable while making this important decision. After all, in a democracy, every vote counts, and each one is a reflection of the people's will. With the voting process complete, the polling station officials make sure that the ballot boxes are securely sealed and ready for transport. And just like that, our part in the democratic process is done. With the votes cast, it's time to determine who won. The votes have been cast. Now comes the moment of truth, counting the votes. So, how does this process work, you ask? It's a meticulous task carried out with the utmost care and precision. Once the polling station closes, the ballot boxes are sealed and transported to a secure location for counting. This is usually a central location that is carefully monitored for security reasons. Election officials, with the watchful eyes of observers, then begin the process. The observers, who may be representatives from each candidate's team or independent bodies, ensure everything is above board. They look for any discrepancies or irregularities that may raise questions about the integrity of the vote. The ballots are counted and then recounted to confirm the initial results. This process is repeated until there's certainty about the numbers. It's a laborious process, but an essential one, ensuring every vote is accounted for and that the voice of every voter is heard. Now, what happens if there's a tie or the results are too close to call? Well, that's where recounts come into play. A recount is basically a do-over of the vote count, just to make sure everything was done correctly the first time around. It's not an uncommon occurrence, especially in tight races, and it's another safeguard to ensure the accuracy and fairness of the election process. But sometimes, even after a recount, there may be disputes over the results. These disputes are typically resolved through legal channels, where evidence of any alleged irregularities is examined. It could take weeks or even months for a final decision to be reached. But in the end, it's all about ensuring the process is fair and transparent, and the will of the people is upheld. In essence, counting the votes is not just a mathematical exercise. It's a complex procedure that involves many people and multiple checks and balances. It's a critical part of the democratic process, ensuring that the final outcome reflects the true choice of the electorate. And that's how we find out who our elected officials will be for the next term. So we've seen how elections work, but why are they so important? Well, elections are the cornerstone of a vibrant democracy. They allow us, the citizens, to choose our leaders and voice our opinions on the issues that matter most to us. Elections are the mechanism through which we express our collective will. They give us the power to shape the course of our nation's future. But with this power comes responsibility. Each of us has a duty to participate in the electoral process, to cast our votes thoughtfully and responsibly. It's crucial to remember that every single vote matters. In close races, just a handful of votes can determine the outcome. So never think your vote doesn't count. Elections are not just about who wins or loses. They're about us, the people, having our say. They're about our democracy in action. Remember, your vote is your voice. Make it count.